You hang out with the Kuwaiti girls, you dress up, and you go to school like a Tasmanian devil. You want to know what you acting like? You acting dumber than a box of rocks. Now, to be like dumb like a box of rocks is dumb. Like, get a box and put some rocks in there. You going to China? My sis international. And she was just pushing. I was like, yeah, girl, international. Push some things in, you know? We're not going to stop you. Put it on the belt.
Welcome back to another episode of It's For Real
You
with...
forgot something. Hello. You're
We're
infamous.
صح.
You know, you can't start that without that, you know?
Hello.
Hola. So you have to start like that now.
Welcome back with another episode.
With Farah and
Fareel.
And not only us today, we have a special guest as well.
She's-
Very special guest.
She's a unique, ultra special guest,
One of a
honestly.
kind. A dear friend of ours, someone close to our heart.
We know her since, I don't know.
More than 20 years now, from way back when.
Yeah, more than 20 years.
Time's running, you know, time's
Yeah,
running.
yeah.
And it's crazy because I haven't seen her since like 15 years probably. It's been a while. But once we got back, it feels like nothing has changed, you know?
That's the beauty of friendship, you guys.
She brought back like real old memories.
Yes.
Like deja vu moment kind of thing.
Yes.
And she's our first international guest from outside of Kuwait.
And we're so happy and we're so proud to have her. We're
Back.
so honored to actually meet up with her and have her back and be in her presence, honestly.
Exactly. She's gone through a roller coaster of a story.
And that's why she's here today.
Very interesting story.
We're going to cover COVID. We're going to cover high school. We're going to cover back in the day Kuwait. I don't know. There's a lot of things to talk about. I mean, if we're going to stay and actually introduce her, we're going to take hours. We're going to take the whole podcast.
So Ahsan, we just introduce her and then we'll learn more about her story.
The unique
The one.
and only Bree.
Bree.
Hey, y'all. What's up? I'm so excited. Like, when Salil told me that she wanted me to be on this podcast for real, I was like, oh, no, this is definitely something that I would like to do. And, yeah, I'm excited to be in the building.
I feel like this is a great, because she just moved back to Kuwait.
Yes.
So we felt like this is the right time to officially welcome her back
Definitely.
Thank you.
and
Definitely.
introduce her back to Kuwait.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to cover everything, but like, how does it feel to be back? Bree?
It's so surreal. It's like a full circle moment because coming here, I didn't know anything about Kuwait. I didn't know what Kuwait was. I didn't know where Kuwait was. And, you know, my family being from New Orleans, Louisiana, any New Orleans people, shout
out to New Orleans.
New Orleans. We actually left 5 days before Hurricane Katrina and ended up in Kuwait. And so going through that was really traumatic, but it was rewarding all in a sense because I got to be introduced to a total different culture. I'm Creole. And so just being introduced to the Middle East in another light other than what was shed in America was a blessing. And it just taught me so much about Kuwait and just the people here. Like, I love it. I'm excited. I'm excited to be back.
I love how you managed to actually take a part of Kuwait with you.
Yes. Everywhere I went, there was someone Arab. Literally everywhere I went, there was someone either from Saudi Arabia, from Kuwait, from Dubai. And because I learned how to speak the Khaliji dialect, it was so easy for me to just kind of take up for them when Americans would try to, like, you know, be disrespectful or little bro them or little sis them when they're literally grown people. And so I think that was the beauty of it all, was like defending for them, like, hey, look, I know what you saw on the media seem to be this, but they're not those type of people, and I need you to kind of calm down. Like, you're at 10, bring it to 5, relax. So yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
So we want to rewind back the sharit,
Yeah, the sharit.
the tape to Little Bree. So talk to us about your whole story of like you saying you being from New Orleans and then that move to Kuwait and how you grew from there and how it impacted you.
Yeah, it must be hard.
girl,
I mean,
young Bree was a fighter. I was fighting people in school. Like I was very, very. I came with the braids to the back, like I just got out of prison. Like I don't know why my parents did that. I wish I could have told them, like, why are you sending me to this predominantly Arab school with these braids in my head? Like, no, I like braids, but to the back, like it looked like I literally just did time. Like if you go to the yearbook photo. Not cute. But coming back out, going into Kuwait, I was a bully. I was mean. And I was really hurt because I didn't understand why we had to move. Like, I didn't get why my parents would pack all of our stuff and say, let's move to a completely different country at the age of 12. Like, why? What's there? Who's there? You know? And it was like my dad, he was so adamant on moving here, and he loved it. He was already here. And so he was so adamant. He was like, no, this is a great place. Like, children can be children here. You know, it's I love it here. And my mom was like, well, I'm going to go where my husband is. And so she brought us in the room. And I remember I had just finished playing with my friend Shelby. She was like, girls, come on in the room. And so we came in. And she was like, we're moving. And I'm like, oh, that's no big deal, because my dad was in the military when I was younger. And so that wasn't a big deal of packing up our things and moving somewhere else, until she said Kuwait. So I didn't know what that was. I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, maybe it's some part of Texas or something. Like, you know, that's no problem. And then she said, you know, we're going to Kuwait. And so we're like, well, kind of,
it is kind of part of Texas, like with the heat and everything.
Yeah, right. The heat and humidity.
The heat and the oil and everything. Yeah.
So we got a little something. Yeah. So she said, well, Kuwait is in the Middle East. And I'm like, okay. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're 12.
She probably thought it was in the Midwest.
No idea. And so she said, girls, have a seat. You're taking this a little too well. So I'm like, okay. So we sit down and she says, well, Kuwait is another country and we're leaving the U.S. And me and my sister go, why do you hate us? Why are you bringing us to another country? And my mom was like, because we want you to learn something else. We want to travel more. We want you to experience another life, have a more open mindset. And I know you don't want to do it now, but when you get there, you'll learn a lot. And I hated it. Like, younger Bree was upset at my parents for not walking us through it. I feel like they could have gave us a month. Not 2 weeks. Like, come on.
Oh, it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks, and then we dipped. 2 weeks, and we left. And
you weren't mentally prepared.
I wasn't. And so coming to school, the teacher, I'll never forget her. It was Miss Karen. She had asked me, you know, where are you from? Tell us something about you. And I told them, you know, that I was from New Orleans and Hurricane Katrina. And everybody was like, she's a Hurricane Katrina victim. Ha, ha, ha. Bariana wale bariani. Ka, ka, ka. You know, just really making fun of me. And for the longest, my name was Biryani, and all of them would be like, Biryani mechpusti, you know, just stupid stuff. And that's what led me to fight. Like, I was like, nah, we got to square up. And I stayed in the principal's office. I remember that. I stayed in trouble. Like, and it wasn't girls I was fighting. It was the guys. It was the guys.
I remember.
Layla Ali, call me. No, I'm joking. No, seriously, like, it was the guys I was fighting, and it was because they were just so mean to me. They were so mean. And I thought the men were I always thought Arab men were gorgeous. Like, I don't even know if I could say that on here.
That's okay.
They were fine. Okay, Arab men are fine. And so I just didn't understand why we weren't clicking. I'm like, what is it? Is it the braids? Is it what is it?
Out of prison braids?
What is it? Like, I try to do my edges. What is it? And so I remember I had gotten into the very last fight, and they sent a notice home and said that if you don't get her act together, we're kicking her out of the school. And with the U.S., if you're here and you get kicked out of school, you're blacklisted. So that means you can't enroll in another school. That means that you got to leave the country. And I remember my dad, he called me in and he was like, I'm not going to whoop you. Sit down. Let me talk to you. So I was like, oh, snap.
Shit's getting real.
Dad's not, all right? My dad's not about to whoop me. Like, what we about to talk about?
Please whoop me at this point.
Like I don't know, because he was so calm, it scared me. It, like, really freaked me out. And he was like, you hang out with the Kuwaiti girls, you dress up, and you go to school like a Tasmanian devil. You want to know what you acting like? You acting dumber than a box of rocks. Now, to be like dumb like a box of rocks is dumb. Like, get a box and put some rocks in there and see if they do anything. Like, they don't do anything. So when my dad called me that, I mean, what you
Please
gonna do?
whoop my ass.
Yeah, just
Please.
do something. Like, don't call me dumber than a box of rocks.
Can I get your belt?
Right,
Just,
like,
whoop me.
so he looked at me and I was just analyzing it in my mind, like, wow, that's pretty dumb. Like, that's beyond dumb. So he says, you're fighting them the wrong way. I was like, I didn't understand what he meant. And he said, they're picking on you in Arabic. You're fighting them with your hands. Why not learn the language? Learn what they're doing. Learn how to be in their culture. And then when they attack you with their words, you know how to come back with words. And it was like a light bulb just went off. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, what am I doing? Why not learn the language? Why am I complaining in a place that I know I can't leave rather than make the most of it? Rather than try to understand them, rather than try to see what we have commonalities. What commonalities do we have? And that thought literally shifted my whole attitude towards Kuwaiti people in general, and the language in general. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to say لو سمعت الآن تتكلم عربي شفك أنت شتبي وخر عني. Like, I started to really learn what they were saying.
And you learned it really
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Like,
and she
like
got the
to the accent and to the letters, like the phonetic letters. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing to learn. No,
Yeah.
you'll have it. Like,
Thank you. And because I used to say subahu hair, and they would always laugh at me, and I would say I'm not saying it right, and they would say good morning, and I would say subahu hair, and they're like,
Nah.
it's not right. So I would go home and I would go sabah 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 el kha 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 ra. I would be in my room practicing, and my dad would say, I know you want to go to the malls with your friends. I know you want to go hang out, but you need to get this homework done. And it got so good that I even got a reward at UAS for my handwriting because I really wanted to embrace it. And I got a lot of backlash from the Americans that lived here because they said that I wanted to be Kuwaiti. And they were like, why don't you hang out with Americans? And I'm like, well, because I don't want to hang out with Americans. I didn't come to Kuwait to hang out with Americans. If I hang out with Americans, what am I learning from them?
Mm-hmm.
and that's why, like, if you notice, like, we had a really great connection with you.
Yeah.
But the
Because
other
of
ones,
that,
and but the other girls in other schools, they always, oh yeah, we know Bree. She wants to be Kuwaiti. She wants to be Arab so badly. And so the backlash, and then I didn't date any of the American men. I only dated the Arabs. Like, they were so handsome. Like, I'm saved now, okay? We wait for the husband. but I will be honest with you and be transparent with you that, you know, I got picked on by the Americans because they felt that, you know, it was just jealousy. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
It was just jealousy. Like, she came here and she's now friends with Arab people and she's now hanging out with them. She's doing the dances. She's learning the songs.
I mean, you connected so well.
Yeah.
And it was so effortless.
And she just reminded, we did that, National Day
Yeah.
dance. She was a part of it.
She was
you
a
know?
part of it. Yeah.
I just, like, I completely forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I really took it to my advantage. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to fight them anymore. I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn about them because there's clearly a wall up. There's it's called a spirit of bigotry, which is racism to people that do not have the same background as you, maybe don't have the same culture as you. And I grew up knowing the Lord. And one of the things that my grandmother always taught me was to love them. Even if they don't believe in what you believe in, even if they don't treat you the way you want to be treated, love them. And I didn't understand why she would say that to me because I would go home and I remember, I don't want to drop any names, but there was one girl in particular who turned the whole high school against me. She turned the whole high school against me and nobody spoke to me. And I would go home and I would cry to my grandmother. And eventually I fought her. We ended up fighting because she had to, it just had to happen.
Damn.
So she turned the whole high school against me. And my grandmother was like, you know what? Bring a book and start reading. I'm like, what? We can't bring a book. I gotta fight. Like, what do you mean?
She has too much energy.
I need to show them that I'm not a coward. And she said, no, that's not how you show anybody you're not a coward. You be silent. You read, you speak to them, you say good morning, and you go to class. God handles your battles. And I thought she was so crazy for that because I would be like, Momo, because in New Orleans we call our grandma Momo. Momo, they're not talking to me like they're being mean. Bring your book, read. And so where we would have There would be the playground for the kindergartners, and then there would be that water fountain. I would go sit right back there and go read. And it wasn't until one of the Kuwaiti guys came up to me and said, "Why do you always sit back here?" And I said, "Well, because, people aren't really talking to me." And he said, "Oh, yeah, I did notice that." He said, "Well, I just want to let you know I still like you. And I think that you are a strong person and you're beautiful inside and out." And it just that conversation just really gave me the courage to be like, yeah, like, this is so childish and this is lame. Like, why am I allowing this to affect me? And it's just like those pivotal moments of meeting people that like said something that like exhorted me to lift me up, to know like, hey, you're okay. Like, that's nothing. That's small. Don't worry about that. Keep it moving. And then I would eventually get back up and be like, yeah, I got this. And so just being my younger self, going from fighting, I didn't stop fighting people until like, I want to say like the middle of 9th grade. I did not care. I was fighting in the malls. I was fighting at school. You were not about to tell me otherwise. Who are you? And I didn't care if they would say, "I will kick you out of this country." I said, "Kick me. I want to go. I don't want to be here in the first place. Like, my parents brought me here, So when I would say that back to them, they would be like, huh? Like, what does she mean? Yeah, send me to the police station. I'm ready to go, But I didn't stop fighting, like seriously stop fighting until like the middle of the 9th grade year. And I started to upgrade my braids. You know what I'm saying? My hair started to become cuter.
Okay.
But the prison braids, man, that was crazy. Like,
why?
I don't know why they died. Look, I thought it was going to
know.
be cute. But when I look back and we had those big old button-down shirts.
Yeah.
It was just given, like, what I went to jail for? Like, it was just given that. Like, it wasn't giving cute. It wasn't giving confident. It was just, now, can't tell me nothing.
No. No one can say nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
She's weak.
I know, like, I'm enjoying this, man. Like,
I know, right? I don't want the stories to
Yeah,
stop.
I'm like,
I want to
I'm
keep them coming. I want them to keep coming.
I've been like this, though, since forever. Like, I'm not going to change. I think we haven't gotten there yet. I'm sure y'all going to ask me about my experience in China and all that, right?
Obviously.
Yeah, we'll get there. But even before all of that, I've always had a sense of humor because I feel like that's a gift from God, like, to be joyful. Who want to be bitter and angry all the time?
Life is too hard already.
Yeah.
We always say that. That's like something that we always
hard
bring
and
up.
it's too hot.
It's too hard. It's too hard already. Like, why make it harder?
Like, just being bitter, just an angry like, what's wrong?
True. True.
We're going with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't with this heat, and I'm bitter. No way.
Right.
No way.
You got to pick a struggle. That's what they say in America. You can't. You got to choose one.
You can't have it all.
You can't have it all. Like, just like you can't be. Never mind. I ain't gonna. Yeah, just go ahead. Never mind. Just next question.
So, you went to high school.
Mm-hmm.
You said you evolved into being a better, calmer person, learning the language. You graduated.
Mm-hmm.
What was that after? Like, what happened after that? I know you moved back to the U.S.
Yeah, I dropped a mixtape. No, I'm joking. Sorry. Okay. Okay.
Ammar خلاص. Ammar is gone.
What is the color of your phone?
Ammar is dead and gone.
Okay, all right. So
Let's retrace back.
All right, retrace back. Okay, you gotta add that.
Okay.
We have to add that. That's not gonna be deleted.
That's not gonna be deleted.
All right.
So you graduated and you moved back to go to college. How was that transition for you?
A culture shock because, okay, so essentially, my grade point average in high school wasn't the best because I was a class clown. I was still trying to figure out things. And I noticed that a lot of my friends took schoolwork serious. Like, people were getting admitted into MIT. Some got admitted into Penn State. And so I'm like, man, I went home and I went back to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I gotta go to college. Like, I can't just not go to college. Like, all of my friends are going to college. Like, I need to go somewhere. So at the time, I was doing theater at BSK, and I was doing Broadway for London. So it was called Lambda, and I had starred in a few Broadway shows here in Kuwait, which were Lion King, Othello, and Beauty and the Beast. And so I thought, okay, maybe I can do acting. And NYU Abu Dhabi had came to UAS, and they had did a tour, and they spoke to us, and they were like, oh, we want you to come to our school. So I thought about it. I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe I can go to NYU Abu Dhabi. Like I would be close to home. I would get to do acting. But then all of a sudden something shifted, and I was like, you know what? I've been around a lot of Arabs for a really long time. I kind of want to go back home and get a sense of home, my blackness, right? And so I applied to a HBCU, which stands for Historically Black College University. And my first choice was Howard University in D.C. I didn't get accepted. I think I didn't get accepted because I submitted the application way too late. Okay. And I was just like, you know what, I didn't get it. So I applied to FAMU, which is in Florida, and I also applied to Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. H-Town Bound, what's up? So I was able to get accepted into Texas Southern, and I went to TSU for 2 years, which was a culture shock because Kuwait has changed a lot since I've been back, like a lot. Before, I don't know if it's still the same way, but there would be, cops out if you're hanging out with guys. This was haram. You couldn't be in the same vehicle. You couldn't, this was like a lot. Showing arms was a lot. I saw a girl in the airport the other day, belly button was out, and I'm like, baby, where you going? Where are you going? Like, we are not going to Dubai. We're going to Kuwait. Like, what are you wearing? But nobody said anything. I was the only one. So I'm like, Lord, am I judging? Let me stop judging. But I was just kind of like taken aback. But anyways, I went to TSU, and it was a culture shock because I didn't understand any of the lingo. Nothing. Like, I remember we were going to a party, and the guy was like, yeah, bro, man, that party lit. It's live, bro. Like, this party about to be live. And I'm like, oh, yeah, who's performing? And he's like, nah, what? And I was like, yeah, who's performing? He's like, nah, live mean like it's about to be
alive.
Like, dope. Like, it's about to be fun. I was like, oh, okay. I can get it. And, and so then there was other times where, like, oh, my gosh. So I remember I was always very modest with myself. A lot of people in the U.S. are very fast-paced, and they're sexually active early. Let's just face it. Like, it's not all of them, but for the majority, people know what it is. I remember it was in our college dorms, and it was freshman year, and it was my dad was like, you're not staying in a co-ed dorm. Like, my dad was very strict growing up. No boyfriends, none of that. I used to sneak them because, like, I was like, I like these guys. Like, I want to talk to them. But I never did anything that was, like, out of the ordinary because I was scared of my dad. And my dad knew a lot of people here, like a lot of people. So I was just like, oh, gosh, I can't do anything crazy.
Kuwait is small.
It is small. Yeah. And so I remember freshman year, some of the girls that was going to the school with me, some of them were strippers. And that was their way of paying for tuition. That was their way of getting what they needed to get done. Yeah. And I had walked in, and they were all sitting in the lobby area, and they was like, Bree, come here. Hi, girl. I was like, hey, y'all, what's up? What are we doing? And one of the girls, her name was Sweet Tea.
And her name is Sweet Tea.
That's not her real name. Oh. That was like her, Sweet Tea. And her friend's name was Bananas because she made the man go bananas. I'm not like, God is my witness. And we're sitting in the lobby, and she says, so we over here, and we talking about our first time. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, college is great. Like, first time going into the classroom. She was like, no, stupid, like, our first time that, I was like, no,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. What do you mean? And she was just like, like. And I literally was like.
That was Sweet Tea or Bananas?
This was Sweet Tea. Bananas was just sitting there like,
Oh, okay.
Validating what she's saying.
The names are killing me.
And I still don't, I don't, anyway. So she says, our first time, like, what did it feel like? And me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still a virgin. Like, I don't know. So I just said lie. I just lie. So she said, so explain it. And I was like, yeah. It was just great.
You can know.
It was. And they were just staring at me, and I was like, yeah, I think that we're more closer, and we connect on a different level than what we're used to connecting on. And she was like, girl, what? So explain it. Did y'all do foreplay? I was like, yeah. Foreplay, 2 plays. All of the plays, we were doing it. We were having a great time. And she was just like, okay, but like, what did you feel like? Oh, love. She was like, what? Love? You lying. And everybody was just like, yeah, you sound like you lying. Like, why you lying? I was like, no, I'm not lying. I've done it before. I've done it a gazillion times. Like,
Gazillion times.
I was mortified. I should have just said the truth, because every guy that would approach me, she would somehow, I don't know, she had like a go-go gadget skateboard where she would just show up out of nowhere and be like, don't talk to her, she a virgin. So I was labeled so serious.
That was Sweet Tea?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Nah, she good. She don't want to talk to you. She a virgin. Stay away. Stranger danger. Like, she would do that. And I would be like, you don't have to do that for me. Like, I'm fine, okay? I can handle my own. She's like, girl, no, you can't. You don't even know what, she was so blunt. Like, so blunt. And college was a culture shock. First 2 years.
I need to speak to Sweet Tea.
Yeah,
you should.
I'll
try to find her.
Yeah,
But she definitely was. She was very boisterous, but she also protected me. I felt like she was also like, nah, you're not gonna play her. Like, even though she told my business, she didn't have to do all of that. She could have did it a different way. Yeah. But she still was like, no, she's not. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
She's like, no, she's not.
She was looking out for
That's
you.
her way of showing.
Showing respect. I guess I wouldn't do that to nobody. No.
That's not your personality per se.
Yeah,
you know what
it's
I mean?
not. Yeah. But so college was a culture shock, and when I got to college, I started to kind of maneuver around, try to figure my way around, and I was considered the spoiled child because my parents always sent me care packages from Kuwait. And it would be these big packages. Like, my dad would send like a bouquet of flowers, the edible arrangements. I miss you. I love you. Here's some shoes. Here's a watch. Here's money. And so I was considered the spoiled child, on campus. But it was because my parents really did, like, they really were proud of me to be going to college. And then I just kind of like, I joined the debate team, and I met my first Saudi Arabian friend on campus.
Wow.
It was during admissions, and she was so pretty. She had a hijab, and she was just so keshka, like, she was just so like fashionable. But nobody understood her because we low-key was in the hood, like Texas Southern. Okay. Yeah, it's in Third Ward, Houston. And you have U of H, which is a PWI, which stands for a predominantly white institute, because back in the days with civil rights and things, we couldn't go to the same colleges and universities. But we were still in the center, you know what I'm saying? We were still in the hood. And so we still had some people that was like there that had, some sort of understanding of international affairs. And then we had some people that were just oblivious and just very, they don't know, lack of interest rather, or even ignorant to even have a conversation with you because you don't know anything about me. You don't know nothing about my collard greens. You don't know nothing about the South. You don't know nothing about nothing. And so, so when I met her, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to her. Like, this is a piece of Kuwait in my pocket. Like, I have to talk to her. And we became the best of friends. Wow. And I remember going to the co-ed dorms, and they were like, man, you talking to that Arab girl. And I'm like, first of all, it's Arab. Okay, it's not Arab. Second of all, you don't know what you're talking about. You've probably never even been to the Middle East. Where is the Middle East? Exactly. Third of all, and they just was like looking at me like, you're a traitor. Like, I had some people even call me like a traitor. Like, you don't want to be black. It's just so many names. But it was like with African Americans, I wasn't that hip. Yeah. And with white people, I wasn't white enough. Like, and then, so it was like with Arabs, I was like, I was just accepted. I was like, when I learned the language, it became so much more easier for me. And it just became so much more effective. And it was just like, these people have just embraced me. And it's not, I don't really know the culture here to where if it's white or black, but it's not like in the South. So I just kind of gravitated more to like, okay, I might not be Arab, but they're accepting, and I don't know. I just saw a different light than what media shows, because media shows
Media is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
it shows the craziest things, but that's how they get paid. So it's not until you actually go and get to know a Middle Eastern person, go and ask them questions, and see that they probably more hip than you. Like, just go out and book that ticket. Book that ticket.
Do you think it's fear?
Yes. Everybody has fear in America in general. Like, I was speaking to someone the other day, and I was like, man, if you don't want to work in your job, why don't you try to work abroad? He was like, what? I don't even got a passport. I would never leave America. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, a lot of people in the U.S. are so comfortable with being in the U.S. And especially the smaller towns in the South. Some of them have never even rode on an airplane. Some of them have never even left. That they have maybe 2 street lights. They know everybody in that neighborhood. And that's it. So it's fear, it's lack of knowledge, it's lack of interest, it's uneducation. You don't have the wisdom to know what I can get out there and why. Like my first ex, I call him my case closed. The first case, he used to always say, why do I need to go anywhere when I have it all here? I can go to Las Vegas and see Paris. I can go.
What?
Because, we have the Eiffel Tower. I can go to small-minded. I just want to get a house in Georgia, in the country, and be in the woods. And I'm like,
that's it. Call it a day.
There's
what about
way much other stuff to see in the world.
we can't. No, you want to go to Switzerland? You never seen the train ride? You want to go to Mozambique? Maybe learn a little bit of Portuguese. You don't want to go to Morocco? Try some
Canada at least, or
like
Brazil.
No, just
Mexico at least.
I'm right
I
here.
know, right?
I'm right here. I don't want to go to none of that. And he was so adamant. I was like, hey, let's book a trip to I don't know, Jamaica. So you don't want to? No, is that okay?
Case closed.
Right, exactly. Like, hit the gavel. It's done. So it's to answer your question. It's fear, and it's just lack of wisdom and comfort. Who wants to leave somewhere that they're comfortable?
A lot of people are sometimes they are comfortable where they are, even if they don't like it. They reserve.
They go back to what they're comfortable with. Like, think about it. A relationship, right? He could be beating me to my face is blue. Yeah. But because I've been with this guy for so long, by the way, I don't support domestic violence. Neither have I ever been in a domestic violent relationship. So I just wanted to put that out there as a disclaimer. But that person is so comfortable because maybe that the person that is dominant over them, or, the thing that they idolize the most, has poured into them to make them feel like when they leave, they won't be able to manage. They won't be able to supply. They won't be able to have the resources to do what they need to do. And so it's just, I'm comfortable. And if I leave this comfort, who knows what will happen?
True.
Right?
Okay, so basically what you talked about, we talked about it the other day. We went over the Kuwaiti proverbs. And one of them is خليك على مينونك لا يجيك اللي أين منه. Can you translate?
So
keep with your
crazy.
No, stay with your crazy, so you don't leave and a crazier person comes. So it's kind of similar.
That's the fear or the comfort that you're talking about. Like, people will not move on, and because I know what's gonna happen today, tomorrow. I know that person. You
just got used to them.
So I'm so comfortable with my own issues and my own concerns that if I leave, God knows what's going to happen. I'm gonna have to restart
all over again. The people, I feel like most people are afraid of just starting all over.
Yes,
because you don't know who you'll meet.
But that's such a horrible place to be in, because that honestly is imprisoning yourself in your mind.
True.
Right? You are in prison in your mind, and you literally miss out on so many different personalities, so many different things. I feel like everybody inside of them has a purpose. God has given you a purpose. And if you just sit on those gifts, then the world can never be a better place if you don't go out to expand those gifts to someone who truly might need your testimony, who truly might need to meet you, who truly might need to encounter you. Yeah. Right? That's how I feel. I feel like when I'm going to a different place, You're not just encountering me, you're encountering the God in me. You're encountering my light. You're encountering my heart. And granted, you can't give everybody your heart because not everybody is used to being loved on. And so it's having that discernment and knowing, okay, has this person been poured into? And if I pour into them, can they reciprocate that back into my cup? And do I even have enough in my cup to give to someone else? Am I full enough to overflow? Right? And so I think that fear is the acronym, right? Everybody knows it. And if not, it's false evidence appearing real. Right? You think that if you go out to a different space, you won't make any friends, you won't meet anybody, and that's also a rejection. You are afraid of being rejected from the world. So instead, I'll stay where I'm comfortable, and I'll allow my comfort to feed me rather than going out and tasting something new and expanding my palate.
I love that.
That's beautiful. Beautiful, dropping wisdom as usual.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a lot of people.
That's very true. That's very true. Like a lot of people, like even like some people hate their job and they're just saying like, oh, you know, what if I don't find that? You never know. Sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith. Yeah. You know, like it is what it is. There's never going to be a perfect moment. You just have to, as we said, the word of the year, execute.
True.
You know, and you never know what opportunity falls on your lap, and now you might not be able to get those opportunities because you're stuck in this place that you're in. You know? So
it's just the comfort, and I just wanted to highlight how you said fear is basically stands for false evidence appearing real, and I mean that's really deep. That's really deep because when you think about it, whoa,
it's not there.
Yeah,
it's not there. What I believe is that God, He gave us a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. He gave us authority. He gave us dominion. And if we allow people to coward us out of doing what He called us to do, then we're never going to get anything done. You're going to always be remorseful. You're going to go through life at that job that you said, probably married to someone that you don't really love, coming into covenant with Him, right? Because marriage is a covenant before you and God, honoring what He intended you to do in that marriage. And you literally are stuck in that lifestyle of just misery. And then you now have a child, and that child now experienced that same misery that you felt because in the womb, you weren't joyful, you weren't happy, you were sad with your life. And that baby feels that. So now when the child comes out, you see a 3-year-old in the classroom playing by himself or herself in the corner, depressed, and you're like, why? It starts at home. It starts at home. And so I think that a lot of the things that I tell my friends in America or anywhere anybody asks me is just do it. I love Nike. I want to, one day, I'm speaking this into your camera, one day I'm going to be endorsed by Nike. I absolutely love Nike. It's such a vibe. And I love their slogan. Just do it. I don't know where they got theirs from, but in my thoughts, what I tie to with that is don't worry about how you'll get there. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry. Everything is already written. If you believe in God, you know that He wrote everything for you. You are just somebody that was added to my chapter and vice versa. Because in my chapter, I was going to learn something from you and you were going to learn something from me. And iron sharpens iron. So I was supposed to walk away saying, hey, I learned something from these two women that I would have never imagined learning because I took a chance to say, what is it that they have to talk to me about? You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
amen to that.
Yeah, that's right.
Hallelujah.
Y'all cute.
So back to college. After you met that girl and after your 2 years, what happened after that?
So I did 2 years at Texas Southern, and then my parents decided to leave Kuwait and get a house in Georgia. They moved to Georgia, and at the time, the guy that I was serious about, we were thinking about getting married. I met his family, like all of his family. He met my family. My dad hated him. My dad did not like him at all. But he lost his scholarship for football. And me being that loyal, I'm going to ride with you till the wheels fall off, was like, oh, no, you don't. If you go back to Georgia, I'm getting us both in school in Georgia. So what did I do? I fasted. I prayed and I took all his information and I got him enrolled in college with me. And we both transferred to Georgia Southern University, where I then finished my degree. And it was also a place where I needed to go because in that place, I took up international studies with a minor in Arabic. And it was like,
Wow.
back all over again. Like, oh my gosh, I'm back in the Arabic culture. My professor was from Morocco, Yusuf. I love you. He was so awesome. He was just a great guy. And he just really like allowed me to just get back in the swing of Arabic. And I always loved it. I always loved the way that it sounded. I always loved the way that it looked. I always loved the way the music sound. My favorite artist was Shireen. Like, I love her. Her voice was just so beautiful. It's still beautiful. And yeah, so I ended up going to Georgia Southern. And when I went to Georgia Southern, you see, there's always high moments in life, but then there's also some down moments in life. And maybe a month before graduation, my parents were about to get a divorce. And man, my world was shattered. Like, my parents had been married for 26 years. Everyone in Kuwait knew my parents. Everyone who knew me knew that I loved my parents. And I you know, my sister and I, we grew up with loving parents, like, that really went above and beyond for us. Like, and I mean literally above and beyond. Just to like bookmark this. I remember when the BlackBerry Pearl came out. It was the white one. And I wanted that phone, and it was sold out in every location in Kuwait except for Fareel. And it was a school night. And my birthday was in 2 days. And my dad went to every location for this phone. And when we finally got to Fareel, they had one BlackBerry Pearl. And my dad looked at me and he said, "That's the one?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "How much?" He told him the price. And my dad had the cash. And he just, "There you go." And he said, "Happy birthday." And I thought that was so effortless. Like, the fact that we drove around, we went to so many different malls, so many different places to find this one phone. And he was like, "We're not going home until she gets it. I don't care how late we get back home. I know she has school in the morning, but my baby's about to turn into a new chapter in life. She has to have it." And so when they got a divorce, or when they were going through their issues, it just shattered me. It just made me feel like, what? Like, my parents? Me? And it brought me back to college, because I remember this girl, I was in this organization, which I later in life denounced. She had stood up and said that her parents were getting a divorce, and I snickered at that. I had no compassion for that. So I said that to say, be careful what you laugh at, because it could be you going through that same situation, not realizing it. Like, there were two significant moments in that organization that happened to me that I laughed at. One was this girl lost her dog, and I was like, bruh, it's just a dog. She was so sad. And I had no remorse. I had no compassion. And then there was another time where one of the young ladies was like, "My mom and dad are going through a divorce." And again, sitting in the back, like, what? Girl, you'll be okay. And later in life, these things happened to me. And I felt that. I felt that. And I'm like, I had to go back to God and repent. Like, Lord, I am so sorry. I will never take anyone's hardships for granted as if it can't happen to me, as if it won't affect me. Because it's like, you sit there and you laugh because you haven't been through it. But then when it does happen to you, I feel like you get hit 10 times worse because you laughed at that person, you know?
You'll get that deja vu moment, actually.
Man, I felt for her when it happened to me. So when my parents got the divorce, I graduated from college. Whoop, whoop. I finished, and it was just like all hell broke loose. Wow. All hell broke loose. We had just bought a house in Georgia. And it was nice. Like, it was a beautiful home. And I was like, oh my gosh, we finally have a family home. Like, because, you know, I told you guys earlier that we had moved a lot. And the house that we was living in Louisiana was just rent. So this was our first home that my parents bought and worked hard for. And my dad thought he could have his cake and eat it too. Define that however you want to define it. And they got a divorce. And I became bitter. I was like, all of you men gotta have it. Like, I don't want no one to be happy. because that's my parents. Like, my family's broken up. So now I want to crush your spirit, which goes to the saying, hurt people, hurt people. Like, it's like all of y'all could get it. All of y'all. I don't care where you're from. I'm a poet. I do poetry. And so I knew how to manipulate my words to, you know, make a man feel vulnerable to where he felt like, oh, she really likes me. And then the minute I know I got him where I need him, where he's at, I drop him. And it made me feel good. It made me feel like, yeah, I'm hurting somebody. But that's so demonic. You're operating with a spirit of Jezebel, which is manipulation and control. You're operating with the spirit of rejection. You're operating with the spirit of anger. You're operating with the spirit of bitter. And you think that that's okay.
And
like,
you're only hurting yourself.
Yeah. You're only, I was only hurting myself. Like you said that so, I totally agree with you. Only hurting myself because I would meet these men that genuinely wanted to be loved. And I knew it. Oh, I knew it. I could smell him from a mile away. I knew it. I was like, yeah, that guy is broken. I'm going to take him and make him feel like he has the confidence, and then I'm going to just drop him. Shatter glass. When you shatter glass, you can't put that back together. That takes a minute, right? Like, that takes, imagine taking a vase and just dropping it.
Once it's broken.
From a second floor.
Yeah.
Right? And so now it's like, how do you mend the damage? You have
to only mend your injury first.
Right? So that was college. Then after college, did you have a question or did?
No.
After college, I moved to China, Beijing, China, and
how and why did you do that?
Girl, that was a setup. So
setup?
I got you. We here. Got you. So when my parents got into their divorce, I could not stay in the U.S. I was so fat, okay? I was bigger than this, and I had just gained so much weight. First of all, I told my friends, why did y'all have me looking like a black sumo wrestler? Okay? You out of pocket for that. I was so big, I looked like a gerber baby. Like, it was just, I was so huge, right? Like, no, seriously. I was like, nobody wanted to check on me and say, you good? You sure you need that piece of steak? You sure you need that? Like, are you okay? You want to work out? You want to go run? Some water? You don't need no juice. You need some water. So, cheers to friends like that. I told them this later, and they laughed, obviously. But I moved to Beijing, China, and this is what happened. I was working at a furniture store before I moved to Beijing. The furniture store was a character in itself. There was so many different,
back in the US.
Yes. Okay. There were so many different personalities at that store. I remember there was this one guy in particular who used to say, "Yabba dabba do, would you look at that?" And I would say, y'all don't be mean to him. Be nice to him. Because, in America, we have a lot. Anyways, so.
I think that's like another episode of Superstore. Do you know that show?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Okay, so he used to say, "Yabba dabba do, would you look at that, Howie Towie?" And so I would always talk to him every morning, and just everybody in that store was just very, very eclectic. I will use that very loosely, and I was like, Lord, I cannot work here. Like, I do not want to work here anymore. This is not my life. And it's only commission, and this is the struggle. I got to get out of here. I have to go, because at first I was a regional manager for AT&T. I was working for corporate America, but my boss was he was inconsiderate of the hardships that I was going through, and instead of him relating to me, he told me to lose myself in work. And I told him what was going on at home, and he was like, "No, you just got to ignore it and tune it out and lose yourself at work." And I didn't think that was healthy. So I ended up resigning, and I was like, "Look, I can't do this anymore." And it was sad because I had became second in the nation in sales for AT&T. Like, I was killing it. And I was doing it the right way. Like, I wasn't finagling people or finessing them into buying stuff. I was actually telling them the information that they needed to know and leaving that lasting impression and just being kind and like, "Look, you don't need that phone." Like, I would get in trouble sometimes because I was too honest with them. But I was like, it's not about the sell. It's about what they need. Sure. Like, I'm not going to put these people in this contract where they can't even afford it. Like, why would you do that? I wouldn't want anybody doing that to me. So I ended up quitting there, and I worked at the furniture store. And I remember back in college, there was this restaurant. It was a fast food restaurant called Cookout. And Cookout is like your Burger King, except it has food from the Cookout. Y'all ever heard you know what a Cookout is, right? Okay, for the people that don't know what a Cookout is, it's basically where you are grilling at the house or you're grilling at the park. And it's typically amongst a lot of races, but African Americans take it really serious because at the Cookout, we have potato salad, we got hot dogs, hamburgers, all of these things. And so if you ever hear, oh, she could get invited to the Cookout, it means she's hip enough to come to be around African Americans, okay? So this restaurant was the Cookout, and it was all of your cheeseburgers, hot dogs, all these things, right? Flurries, sundaes, all these things. And so I had a classmate, we gonna name her Samantha. Samantha was in the line, and she had a 3.9 GPA, super smart. Wow. We both were in international studies, but her minor was French, I believe. And she wanted to go off to the UN. Like, she was really, really educated. Like, she came from a very discriminatory background because of being in the South. Her family didn't really allow they were racist. Let's just call a spade a spade. And so she had a very different outlook on races. She was just very friendly, very sweet. And Samantha was very educated. And I remember she was a manager at the Cookout. And so I had just came out from partying that night, and I had drove through the drive-through, and I saw her, and she was in line, and she was teary-eyed. And I'm like, Samantha, what's wrong? She was just like, I just can't do this anymore. And I'm like, can't do what? Life or this job? Because, you gotta know how to differentiate it. Is this a suicidal talk, or is this because you don't want to do the job? And if it's suicidal, let me get out my car and come pray for you, because what we're not about to do is have you just take your life out because you can't handle the pressures that's going on right now. So she told me she couldn't do the job, and she was just stressed, and, final exams were coming up. And I just kind of exhorted her, and I told her, what goes on in life is only temporary. Mm-hmm. It never lasts forever. So take what you can out of that chapter to apply to the next chapter. Don't sit in it. Don't sit in that. And it was like that made her feel better. Well, let's fast forward. Months later, I see Samantha in Inner Mongolia, South Korea, China. I said, dang, did they open up a Cookout in South Korea? Like, what? How did she get there? Like, what did she do? Like, did they make her the regional in South Korea? Like, wow, big moves. So I message her, and I say, Samantha, what are you doing? She says, oh, I'm teaching English. What? Now, at my old school, at the college that I graduated from, I would see, what are our alumni doing? And I would see teaching in China, teaching in Abu Dhabi, and I never took it serious. I would just walk past like, okay, that's cool. I wanted to become a diplomat. That has always been my dream, to be a public affairs officer for the U.S. Embassy, wherever God places my feet. That's always been something that I wanted to do. I think that it's an awesome job, and it's just foreign service is just so interesting to me. Like, I just love international affairs. And so I messaged her, and I said, what are you doing? And she told me she was an English teacher. And I said, y'all hiring? And she says, no, I'm an English teacher in China. Y'all hiring? And so she says, no, I'm in Beijing. Y'all hiring? Like, what are we talking about? I would go. And so she was like, really? And I said, yeah, I would love to come to Beijing. And so she said, okay, well, send me your resume. So I send the resume, and they reach out to me immediately. Like, we would love for you to come. And so I just needed 2 approvals to officially go. One was from my auntie Danielle, and one was from, I needed to hear from my sister. I just needed to hear from these two, because these two are very, they're very authoritative, and they know what they want. My sister knows how to handle money really well, and she's smart, and she gets what she needs to get done. And my auntie is just like, both of them are very, very education. Both of them are very wise, very smart. My auntie got her PhD, and I just really like their advice. Like, I feel like they really give sound advice. And my sister is just like the pop-off queen. Like, well, if this happens, then you know what you got to do here. And, and my auntie is the same way, but my sister is more like, call me. And my auntie, I don't know, I just needed their approval. And so I tell my sister, and my sister was like, girl, go so I can come and see you. Like, yes, go to China. It's like, okay, that's the first one. So I called my auntie. I'm like, hey, look, I wanted your advice. I got a job offer in Beijing, and I want to know, should I go? She said, are you really asking me that? Girl, yes. How many times do you ever get a job offer to go to Beijing, China? Go. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Beijing, China.
What year was that?
This was 2018. 2018, and at the time, my parents were still going through the divorce, and it was like I had some sort of hope. I had some sort of hope of me going to Beijing. However, there were things going on at home. I can now escape it. I don't have to stay there. I can kind of submerge it. And so I got the job, and I had been talking to Samantha on video calls. Talking to her on video call, she was telling me about the nightlife. She was telling me about how we're going to go to the Great Wall. Y'all, she was pumping my head up. Oh, my gosh. I was like, ooh, we about to eat some ramen. It's about to be a vibe. Like, we're about to have fun. So they sent me the information on the taxis that I need to get. They sent me a picture of a Motel 8, but I thought I was staying next door to the Motel 8. I didn't know I was staying in the Motel 8. So I pack all my bags, and I have seven bins, right? I look like, where is this girl going? Like, she has, I had so much, you know when you're traveling abroad. I'm not trying to be racist, but it's like Sri Lankans and Indians and Bangladeshis, man, they have the most luggages. Like, where are y'all going? And how come they're allowed to go through TSA and all of that without getting caught? Like, it's like nobody stops them. In the U.S., when I would travel, I'd be like, dang, he got a whole vacuum cleaner. Like, and here I'm trying to get in 2 things of clothes. Like, how is he? My man's got rice, oatmeal, a vacuum cleaner, a crock pot, like a wheelchair, and nobody's saying nothing. Like,
and seven meals from KFC.
yes!
Yeah.
And then got that's just his suitcase.
Yeah.
He still got a family of 8. Like, what in the world? What's their price? Like, so I never understood that. So I had my 7 bins, and the girl at the airport, I don't know her name, but she complimented my hair because I'm natural. And she asked me about my products, and that just struck up a conversation. And she didn't even charge me for any of the bins. I think she probably got fired 2 days later. Had to have been. Because she didn't charge me anything. She was like, oh, girl, your hair is so cute. Where you going? You going to China? My sis international. And she was just pushing. I was like, yeah, girl, international. Push some things in, We're not going to stop you. Put it on the belt. So I get there, and there's nobody meeting me at the airport. I didn't do any research about China. I didn't learn Mandarin, nothing. And I think because I was so hurt from my parents' divorce that I literally was numb on the plane. I'm listening to music as if I'm flying to Texas. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm in my seat like, ooh, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not paying attention. I'm just chilling. It's like, I'm not leaving America. Surely I'm not leaving America. I'm not going to Asia. I'm just going down south. Like, I'm just going to Texas, which is a 2-hour flight. I don't know if it was just the emotions of being hurt and being traumatized to where I just kind of, I blacked out. I didn't.
You didn't process it.
I didn't process any of it. Any of it.
She was too hurt to even think about it.
She didn't have the mental capacity.
No.
For it,
so and that's a scary place to be in when you don't even realize anything. You're just so numb. Like, so I get to China and I'm like, oh snap, there's no English in this airport. Oh snap, no one's meeting me here. Oh snap, I don't even know how to get a taxi. Like, what? With
your 7 bags.
With my 7 bags. So what am I what? These aren't even bags, these are totes. These are bins, sis. Like, you got conditioner, you got leave-in products, like all of this stuff, seasoning, salt, like, because I just knew I was gonna make some gumbo for somebody. Like, so I'm like, oh my gosh, like what do I do? The guy was like, 你好,你好,你好,你可以说中文吗? Can you speak Chinese? Now I can know it. Now I know it. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying. 你在哪儿? Where are you going? 你去哪儿? 去哪儿? Where are you going? And I'm like,
oh my God.
I don't know what you're saying. And 那个外国人他不可以说中文. You foreigner, you don't know how to speak in Mandarin. And I'm like, I just stood there. I was like, like, so eventually I get a taxi and I show him the paper and they charge me an arm and a leg because they, that's just every country. If they know you don't speak the language and you don't know what you're doing, we're gonna charge her an arm and a leg. So I get to the hotel and I'm like, no, that's not going to the Motel 8. No. And he's like, huh? Tall. Like, get out of my car. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, this is a Motel 8. And he's like, tall. Like, go. Like, I'm done with you. Like, I gave you your ride. Just leave. So he takes all my stuff out and puts it on the curb. And I'm like, still not processing anything. Still just like, no, somebody gonna come and get me. Like, I'm not. I have never stayed in a Motel 8 a day in my life. Do you know the reputation a Motel 8 has in America? Mm-hmm. Like, that's never. I'm sorry. Thank God I've been fortunate enough to never stay there. But that changed. I walked in there. She asked me for my passport. They didn't have an elevator, so no one helped me. I carried all of those bins up to my door, pushed it into the room. And when I sat on that hard bed that felt like cardboard with a thin sheet, I cried. And I said, oh my God, I made a mistake. And I was like, OMG, what? What did you just do? Like, you quit your job, you broke up with at the time I was dating someone else, you broke up with him, you pulled out your 401k, and you just left. And my friends thought I was crazy. They were like, what do you mean you're leaving? I'm like, yeah, I'm moving to China in 2 weeks.
2 week notice.
2 week notice. And they were like, oh, so you going to China, Texas? I'm like, no, I'm going to China. Chinatown?
China.
New York? I'm like, no, like Beijing, China. They were like, girl, you don't call no one to tell them you going to China in 2 weeks. What's wrong with you? I said, well, look, we're going to have hot dogs, hamburgers at the house, and I think my mama making some chicken. So if you want to come, you're more than welcome.
Whoa.
I basically invited them over. We had the going away party, and they were just looking at me like, something's not right with Bree. Like, she's goofy, she's silly, but I think in a sense they could kind of tell that,
you're running away from something.
She's running away from something. She's happy, but why China? That's what they kept asking me. Why don't you just move to Texas? Why don't you move anywhere in America? Why are you going out of the country? But it just made sense. It just made sense to me because I wanted to get as far away from everybody. Like, I didn't want to be around anyone. I didn't want to be around my friends. I didn't want to be around my family. I just wanted to be as far away. I wanted to be somewhere where no one knew me. Mm-hmm. And I could just recreate whatever it is that was broken from me. I don't want to change who I am because I meet a lot of people that become expats and they are double lived. Like, they have double lives. Like, you're lame in America, be lame in Spain. Okay, stop. What are you doing? Like, so I didn't want to change my identity, but I just wanted to kind of get away from just all of the noise. I just felt like that was just the safest place to go. It was just like, let me just escape from this. I have this going on. I'm depressed. I'm fat. I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel confident. I don't feel loved. I just need to go. That's all I kept telling myself was, you just need to go. So I left. I got to China and got to the Motel 8, and it literally was like a wake-up call. Like, I just cried. I cried and I called my mom, and my mom was freaking out because she didn't know what was going on. Like, you got to China and now you're crying. Like, what?
What was her reaction when you told her I'm moving to China?
Okay, so the plan was both parents were supposed to go to Korea. My dad had got a job in Korea. So her idea was, okay, if you're in Korea, you're in China, I'm in Korea, we're close to each other. Yeah. So it shouldn't be bad. But then when things started to get rocky and the job didn't go through, now it's like, well, you don't know anyone in China, Bree. Like, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, yeah, I have to do this. Like, I just felt it. I just felt like that's where I was being called. I got to go to China. And on the way to the airport, she cried, and I was just looking at her because I was so numb. Like, I was so, I don't know, my mind was just elsewhere. Like, I didn't even care that she was crying. I was just like, bruh, like, you good? You straight? You need some tissue? Like, you ready? Take my photo, like, bye. And she was just like, I just can't believe you're doing this. I'm proud of you, but are you sure this is what you want to do? So when I got there and I was crying, it now frightened her because she's like, well, I knew I shouldn't have let you go. I knew, so she started to think that maybe it was her. And so I told her what it was, and she said, I didn't raise a coward. If you're not going to take the money that you have and come back to China, you need to get off my phone. Because right now you crying and doing all of that, there's nothing I can do for you. You're literally in China. All I can do is tell you to suck it up, go out there and make me proud, or come back home.
True.
I can't do anything else. I can video call you and watch you cry and watch the snot come out, but that's not going to do anything. And so there's that exhortation that God allows for somebody to just pour into you so that you can get yourself back up, right? And it comes in the strangest, it comes through different people, right? So I sucked it up and I was like, okay, I can do this. And I started to go to the training for the new job. And I remember going to McDonald's and there was, well, let me backtrack. I had to move out of that room into another room in the hotel with a roommate. And I cried because I was like, well, where's the roommate from? And they said the roommate was from South Africa. And I don't know if you've ever seen the Disney Channel movie Apartheid. No, what is it? I don't know. I can't think of the actual name, but it's a movie about the apartheid and about how they were segregated, white against black and, Afrikaans and South African and things of that sort. And so when I found out where the girl was from, I immediately prejudged her. Immediately. And I called my mom crying. I was like, what's wrong now? And I told her, Mom, they're trying to put me in a room with a South African. And she said, excuse me? Do you know her? And I said, no. And then I ended up judging the girl because I didn't know anything about South Africa. And I just based my opinion off of the Disney Channel movie that I saw as a child, which was so ignorant. Oh my gosh. So I called my mom crying and my mom was like, I never raised you to be racist. Like, you're from the South. Relax. Get to know the girl. Get off my phone. Stop crying. She was really like, either you're gonna come home or you're not.
She was keeping you in check.
Yes, like really. So I swallowed that and I was able to become roommates with this girl and I ended up loving her. She was amazing and she was so much fun. And in certain areas of China, there are squatters where the bathroom has the hole in the floor. When you go to use
what?
Yeah, you got to squat.
Like
حمام العربي.
Yeah, so we went to McDonald's and I had these velvet pants on. So imagine the velvet. And I was squatting and I told you at the time I was overweight and I fell in my pee. I fell in my own pee.
Oh my God.
Lord, that was so nasty. I walked out. I said, take me back to the room. She said, why? What's wrong? I said, I fell in my pee. Take me back to the room. Imagine velvet with pee and heat just rubbing on your leg. Oh, it was so uncomfortable. And so she took me back to the room. She laughed. Everyone laughed. And I get to the school now. Now the training session is over with. But before we end the training session, the lady asks us, hey, maybe you should recruit the next person so that you can get a raise. So I'm like, what? What do you mean? And she said, yeah. The person that brought you here got a raise for you. So I'm like, wait, what?
Calling up Samantha.
Yes. So I'm like, so Samantha pretty much said, I have a foreigner who's interested. She's a native speaker. You give me the money, I'll bring her over here. So they brought me over there, and I'm like, dang, you could have at least cut me, like, you know what I'm saying, slide me something. You just used me to get me over here. And I mean, of course I wanted to come, but I didn't know that you were getting paid off of me. Like, I just kind of felt like that was a little like, you know what I'm saying? So I get to the school and I'm on a tourist visa, okay? And I get to the school and I'm sitting down and I'm like, now the company that I worked for before, when you get to a new company, they welcome you. They have balloons. They do a party. So, I'm like, oh my gosh, where are my balloons? Where does it say in Chinese so I can take a photo, film this? I get there and everybody's just. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just gonna sit down. So I sit down and I'm like, hi, and no one's talking to me. And there's like, it's in this office, it's like a cubicle. Like there are cubicles of like different people sitting at their desks, and either going over the English assignment or just, and I'm like, okay, I know that I don't look like everybody up in here. So I know they know I'm new. Why isn't anyone greeting me? So this guy comes in and we're going to give him the name Jason. So Jason sees me. He goes, really? That's what we're doing? We just hire a new teacher like that? You guys this is insane. Why would y'all do that? So
in English.
In English. He's a foreigner.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's wrong with him? Like, why would he say that? And so the lead foreign teacher comes in. We're going to name him Tim. Tim says, Jason, relax. We're about to have our staff meeting right now. So he's like, I just don't understand. I don't understand why you guys would do that. So I'm like, what is going on? So he's like, we're going to have our meeting now. So he's like, hey, Bree, if you could just meet us down the hallway in the third classroom, we're going to have a meeting, and we'll see you there. So I'm like, okay. So I go to this classroom, and everyone's crying. Everyone's crying. What? People are looking down. People look scared. So I'm like, oh, this y'all are playing a good role. Like, y'all are acting like you're crying, and then somebody's gonna jump out with a banner and go, surprise! Welcome
She's
to China.
So waiting for the banner.
I'm excited. I'm like, I'm gonna have a pizza party.
Corporate America pizza party.
Poor Breana.
I hate those pizza parties.
It's so lame. But I needed that lameness just for that moment. I'm like, they're going to have balloons. They're going to have some sort of Chinese welcome and a gift to say, ni hao, ni hao. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. Sitting in my chair like, nobody does anything. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So they're all like this. And the lead foreign teacher stands up and he goes, guys, what happened yesterday was mind-boggling. So I'm like, what happened yesterday? I'm sitting there. I'm like, calm down. Don't be a little punk. Calm down. I'm talking to myself. Calm down. And he goes, we're just going to give her a name. Sarah was taken by the police. We were raided by the cops. And she's on a tourist visa. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on a tourist visa. I'm about to go to jail and eat cabbage for the rest of my life. Like, I'm about to be making shoes for the factories. Like, because when you go to prison in China, you are a factory worker. Like, so I'm like, I'm about to go to jail. Like, I am going to jail. And they're like, they didn't have to do that. And he goes, it's okay, guys. I know that the way that it happened was insane. But I have a plan. So I'm like, I'm literally talking to myself this whole time. And they're still crying. He pulls out a list of questions. And I wish I could be lying to y'all. The questions say, why are you in China? I'm visiting. Why are you at this school? I'm considering to come back and work here. How long have you been here? Just 2 days. Like, literally. And he's like, when the cops ask you these questions, you are to memorize these questions. So I'm like, what? He's like, we don't know when they're going to come back. I'm like, what? He's like, but I found a way to get out of the building. What? This is a nigga what moment? I don't know if I can say it on your podcast, but what? Bro, what? What do you mean? Like,
oh my God.
What? So he's like, all right, guys, just follow me. So he's walking backwards. Everybody's following him. And he's like, I just want to let you know that you need to, like, wear a change of clothes underneath your uniform. Girl, look, I'm like, oh, I'm going to jail. Yeah, nobody's going to hear from me ever again. Like, it's, yeah, just sayonara. Zaitian, bye, Bree. Like, there is no Bree. And he goes, we're going to go through the back. And this is how he was executed. We're going to go through the back door. You're going to take your shirt off. And you're going to have your normal clothes on. Now, once we get downstairs, oh my God, there's a Domino's pizza. Foreigners love Domino's. You're going to sit in there, order yourself something, let the cops pass by. I'm like, this has to be the dumbest plan. Did you make this while you were blindfolded? Like, were you high when you made this plan? Because, sir, no Chinese person is going to let a foreigner eat in their restaurant while the cops are running around asking for a foreigner. Who's going to do that? So then we walk all the way blocks on blocks on top of blocks away. And he's like, all right, guys, this is all I got mapped out. So it's now 11 o'clock. Enjoy your lunch. I'll see you guys at 2.
That was your first day?
First day. First day on the job. And I'm like, oh my gosh. What did I get myself into? Lord, I don't speak Mandarin. I don't have any friends here. Where the hell is Samantha at? Where's she at? Because this girl should have told me this. She should have warned me this. She should have warned me about this and said, hey, Bree, coming in a little bit of turmoil. Just want to let you know. She told me they were racist, but she didn't tell me they were just picking up people and bringing them to the jail. Like, she didn't say that to me. She didn't tell me. So I meet another girl at work. We're going to call her Ashley. Ashley's like, hey, I know this is a lot to handle, but can I treat you to lunch? So I'm like, I might as well eat. I don't got nothing else to do, so let's go eat. But I couldn't even eat the food because I was just like, what is going on? So we go eat, and now I'm like, she's like, okay, well, I'm going to go for, my cigarette break, and the mall is there. You'll be fine. We'll be fine. Everything's going to be okay. And she leaves. And so I'm just like sitting at this restaurant with butterflies in my stomach. It's like my heart is now in my butt. Like, I'm literally like, what in the world? What do I do? So I go to the school and I go to the lead teacher and I'm like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? He goes, yeah, absolutely, Bree. Where do we gotta go? I was like, let's go to the second room. He's like, yeah, let's go. So we go and I'm like, don't be a little punk. Don't be a little punk. I'm talking to myself, don't be a little punk. Don't be a little punk. Don't you cry. You better not cry. You better not cry. Get to the office and I close that door and my back is towards him. I'm facing the door. And I do a deep breath, and I turn around and I go, I want a tourist visa. And he sits there, and he's like, what? And I'm like, I thought I was going to be okay. Oh, my God. They told me that if I got on a tourist visa, they would help me get a working visa. And you just said that the girl got deported. Then he goes, yeah, she did yesterday. I was like, what do I do? He's like, quit. What do you mean? We didn't even know you were getting hired. Like, they didn't tell us that they were bringing a new teacher. She got deported, and then you come in and you take her classes. And everything just moves on normal. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? He was like, I told you what to do. I'm not on a tourist visa. Basically, like, sorry, loser, I'm on a working visa. You here illegally. Like, so it didn't help me out. So I was like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? So I called Samantha after work. I'm like, yo, first of all, why didn't you tell me that they were deporting people? She's like, oh, it's okay. They do it all the time. I was like, sis, first of all, I'm black. Okay, let's get that correct. I am an African-American woman in China. I'm not about to go to jail in China being black. It's different. And I say this with all sincerity. In China, if you are an African-American person and you don't know you black, you gonna know you black when you get there. Because there's some people that walk around not realizing that you are black, okay? Hate to break it to you, but you're one of us, okay? When you get to China and you think that you're not, they will make sure you know, no, you are from Africa, you are from America. And it could be vice versa. Because I'm black, I'm automatically from America. I'm automatically from Africa. And because they're white, they're automatically from America. And it's just this, it's ignorance. It's also racism. And so it's like, I had to give her that news flash. Like, sis, you're white, okay? I'm not. I'm black. I'm very proud to be black, but we need to figure something out. We meet up, y'all. Tell me where she takes me to go eat for the first time.
Samantha?
Mm-hmm. Where do you think she took me?
McDonald's.
No, you close.
Domino's?
No. Girl, we went to KFC. KFC. Finger licking chicken. What do I look like eating KFC in China? Like, what? You could have took me to go get ramen. You could have took me to go get hot pot, some baozas, jiaozas, dumplings.
What?
KFC. KFC.
She's racist. She's a racist one, honestly.
It'll calm her down. You got some watermelon too? No, but seriously, like, we went to KFC and I'm like, ain't no way in hell, Lord. Ain't no way. My Southern came out. Ain't no way. I know ain't a word, but it's going to be one today. Ain't no way we going to KFC.
Oh my God.
We go to KFC.
Oh my God.
I'm sitting there eating that chicken like, man.
Samantha, you're racist.
why am I here? What am I doing? So she basically tells me, just relax. And, things are going to work itself out. Like, these are just the kinks that you have to go through in China. Like, it's always, every expat that comes for the first 6 months always has a hard life. Everybody says that. Not just her. Everybody said that. So I didn't understand what they meant. Excuse me. So I continue working there. And I had it up to here.
On the tourist visa.
Yeah, I still worked at the school with the tourist visa. Never got caught.
Were there other raids?
Huh?
Were they raids?
No.
Okay.
Thank God. No, there weren't any other raids. So the teacher, the teaching assistant that was working with me kept comparing me to the Caucasian employees. Why do you say this like this? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Do you like this? Do you just really being low-key racist? Now, mind you, I'm still a fighter, okay? So she about this close from getting slapped. Like, this close. So we sitting in the classroom. I'll never forget it. And her name is Emily. We can name her Miss Emily, because Chinese people don't really have a real name. It's not her real name. But her name was Emily. And Emily, I was teaching, and I said, Emily, you need to make sure that you're doing it. She looked at me. I think that morning she woke up and lost her mind. Yeah, she lost her mind.
Violence,
yeah, she chose. She was with it. She looked at me and she said, you shut the hell up.
Nah,
now,
come
I
on.
already didn't like the kids because the kids were asking for the other teacher.
Yeah.
They were 3. So asking for the other teacher. And they didn't like me. And I was just trying to fit in. And I said, what did you just tell me? She said, you heard what I said. You shut the hell up. I said, Emily, I don't know who you think you talking to, but if you and this job and these dang on kids, and kids ain't had to get it because they ain't do nothing. They was still running around talking about dinosaurs. I ain't have to do that. Let's be honest, right? But I was so mad, and I quit. And I had already gotten paid. So I took the money and I dipped. And I had been told that I needed to find an apartment. So I'm kind of going, so before I quit that job, I needed to find an apartment because the Motel 8 was putting me out. They told me that I had a week to find a spot. I called Samantha. Samantha was like, there are real estate agents on every corner. Just go in. And I'm like, but I don't speak Mandarin. She says, you Google Translate. I was in this office, y'all, for 6 hours. 6 hours trying to find an apartment. It wasn't until I heard somebody say, "Hello, salam alaikum." When I heard that, I was like, there's no way there's an Arab person in this office. There's no way there's somebody in here that speaks Arabic. Meet a guy. He speaks Arabic. He's from, I either want to say Sudan or he's from Sudan. He's from Sudan and he speaks the Khaliji dialect. And I'm like, there's no way. And I'm like, salam alaikum, أنا ما تعرف شلون تتكلم Mandarin, أنت تتكلم إنجليزي ولا لا? He goes, أهم شيء شلون أنت تتكلم عربي من وين? I'm like, wait, look. I get it. You want to, hey, hello, Allah, we can do that. But right now, I need a house. Like, I need you to help me. And he's like, whoa.
He was just as surprised as you were.
He goes, يمكن نص كويتية نص أمريكية. لا. Listen, I know. This is great. This is a kumbaya moment. I need a house, okay? I need to move. Like, I want to talk to you too. I want to eat majbous with you as well. I want to go drink tea. But right now, brother, put your thinking cap on and help me get this house. And he's like, okay. I said, can you speak English? He goes, I can speak English a little bit because I don't know real estate in Arabic, right? I don't know that yet. And so he spoke to me in English and he spoke fluent Mandarin. So he spoke Arabic, English, and Mandarin, and I think he spoke French. Like, he was so intellectual and so smart. And he just helped me get my apartment. And it was like, Lord, you keep sending an Arab. Like, everywhere I went, it was like, Here you go. It's a little pocket of an Arabic person. Here you go. Here's some Arabic. Like, just put them in your pocket. Like, literally. And so I became friends with him. I became really good friends with him. And he helped me out with everything. He got me a power bank. He became my best friend. Yeah, he was so sweet. I don't know what happened to him, though, but I don't. I'm not even going to lie to you. And so I ended up quitting that job. And when I quit that job, I had money from my paycheck. But I went a month without a job in China. Times got hard, and I didn't tell my mom because I didn't want my mom to be like, look, you need to just come home. It's too much going on. Like, it's too much going on. First, the school gets raided. Then the teacher discriminates against you. Now you quit your job and you don't have a job. Now you need help finding an apartment. Like, it's too much. Come home. So I didn't say anything. I ate dumplings for a whole month. I had a coworker who I believe he did acids. He was on some other stuff, and he would be like, yo, Bree, I just want to let you know, man, like, if you ever, go through hardship, the beef dumplings in the mall, they're solid. It's only like $3. You can get 6 of them. And I was like, okay, thanks for sharing. He's like, yeah, because I've been through some hard times here, and those dumplings, they've got me through it. And I was like, all right, dumplings it is. And he was like, yeah. And, the noodles are good too, but the dumplings, they'll fill you up because it's bread and meat. And I'm like, thank you for that information. And he's like, you're welcome. And so when times got hard, I was like, hey, I remember that strange coworker was like, dumplings will get you full. So what did I do? I ate balzas, the steamed buns with meat, for a whole month straight. And I met my first African, what do you call it? African British? What are they? African British?
I think so, yeah.
I met her in an Uber by mistake. So I asked Samantha, how do you make friends? You know what she told me? Make a Tinder. I said, Samantha, what? So yeah, make a Tinder. You just make a Tinder when you go on Tinder.
You're still asking Samantha for help?
Yeah, because that was the only one I had. Like, what'd you want me to do? Like, she was the only one. So after,
where did the South American chick go?
Oh, she had got to a different city.
Okay.
So I was in Beijing. So we all met in a training center camp. And then everybody got dispersed to different cities that they had applied for. And I was the only one stuck in Beijing. So the people that I did meet, they went off to Ningbo, Chengdu, Shanghai. Like, they all went to the different training centers around China. And I was the only one in Beijing, which sucked because I was like, dang, I met these people. And now, and half of them were South African. And they all were like super cool. Like, yeah, I was the only brown girl in the group. So I basically asked her, how do I make friends? And she said Tinder. I went on the most craziest dates with the most, oh my gosh. It was a lot. And so I was on my way to a date to this Tex-Mex restaurant. And I had accidentally clicked Uber Pool, and it picked up someone else. And I'm like, hey, no, you're going the wrong way. Tumble, which means like, I don't understand you. Tumble, And I'm like, no, like you're going the wrong way. Like, you're going the wrong way. Like, I need to. And so then he slows down, and I'm like, is that a black girl? Like, another black girl in China, like in Beijing. Oh my gosh. Lord, So she gets in the car, and I'm like, yo, hey. She's like, oh, hello, how are you? And I'm like, how you doing? Like, what's up? It's like, are you from the States? I'm like, yeah. It's like, I can tell from your accent. I'm from the UK. I'm like, all right, what's up now? How you doing? It was just like, are you new here? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I'm going to take my number. She like taught me, like, she showed me everything, like the club scenes and the people. And then I just started meeting all these different expats. And then I just dropped Samantha because I was just like, you're no help. Like, and so I remember being racially discriminated against because I was still trying to find a job. And I went to this school to go have an interview. It was so embarrassing. So in Mandarin, Khairan means black skin, right? Okay. Bu yao means I don't want. So bu yao, I don't want, or no, bu means no. Bu yao means I don't want, or I don't have, or whatever. So I was going to the school, and the kids were all coming out of the school, and they were all looking at me like, nigga, why Goran? Nigga means that. So that foreigner, right? That foreigner. And so I'm just like, okay, hi kids, trying to like play Barney. But really I feel super uncomfortable. And I'm like, I don't know how to say interview in Mandarin. So I'm telling the guy, like, I have an interview. And he's like, boyao, So I'm like, there's no way you're about to turn me down for this job being black. Like, there's no way. And I didn't get the job. They texted me from the school and was like, hey, sorry, we didn't realize that you were black and we cannot offer you the job. Yeah. I was like, what?
That's crazy.
Well, we can't offer you the job. Because I went through an agent, and they said the agent didn't specify that you were a black girl. And because you're black, we can't have you working here.
What?
Yeah, we can't have you there. We can't have you working here. So I walked away. It was so embarrassing. I just walked away and I held my head up and I was like, yeah, you're not even about to cry in front of these people. When you get in a taxi, cry your eyes out. But in front of these people, you're not about to cry. Like, don't be a little punk. And so eventually I left there, and my first principal at the school that I worked at I worked there for 5 years. Her name was Grace. And I felt like that was like God's grace through her, because she saw something in me and she hired me right on the spot. Like, she hired me and then they helped me get my working visa, and I was able to get my working documents, and life became better in my occupation. But personally, it was still bad. I was still depressed. I was still hurting people, and I was still dating men just to get back at them. But I feel like working with children really brought me through a deliverance of having patience and love and forgiveness. Because if you ever notice a child, if you take a toy from them, they'll cry. Then you give it back to them, they'll stop crying, and then they'll ask you to play with them. That is how we're supposed to forgive. You are supposed to look at it, and it might hurt you, but forgive them. See, in the Bible, Jesus tells us to forgive 77 times. And I think I learned that with those children, how to forgive. I had one girl, her name was Michelle. And every day, Michelle would call me on the playground. She was 3. And she would always act like there was a chandelier in her house. There would be nothing, but it was her imagination. And she would say, Teacher Bree, you can't look. Right? And she would go, ooh, and I would go, girl, look at these windows. Ooh, did you get a new chandelier? And she would go, And I said, oh my gosh, and is that tea? And she would go, And I said, and is that strawberries? And she would go, And I would say, oh, Michelle is hot. And she would go, yeah, hot, don't drink too fast. And I would say, okay. And I play this, and the other teachers thought I was crazy. But it's the imagination. Right? We lose that when we get older. We forget to imagine. It says in his word, write the things down plain and hide it. Tuck it away. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2. Write these things down. You should come to God with childlike faith. No matter how old you get, you're still God's child. You could be 80. You still have to come with that childlike faith. And so I think from the children, I learned how to love again. I learned how to be patient. I learned how to have my imagination. And I learned to never let anybody dim my light or make them or my dreams. My dreams can never be failed or wavered because you don't believe in me. Michelle did that every single day. And no matter what other teachers thought of her, no matter what other teachers laughed at her, no matter what other kids laughed at her, she still had in her mind that this was a beautiful house with a chandelier with strawberry fresh tea. And it didn't matter if it was there or not. And it was because of me that allowed for her imagination to go far like that. And I think that teaching just really taught me that I'm not here to just be their teacher. I'm here to mold them and to make them know that I believe in you. Even if your parents don't believe in you, even if your friends don't believe in you, I believe in you and God believes in you. And I feel like the love in me was pouring out on those children, and it just taught me how to really love again. Like I hate it. I hated like helping people with their kids. I didn't like it. In fact, I told my sister when she had my nephews, she shouldn't have them. I told her that. Don't have those kids. You're not ready for children. I had to repent for that. I had to go back and say, Lord, that's a blessing. Children are blessings. And whether or not you believe it, inside of the womb, God already knows them. The story is already written. In your womb or in your womb or in my womb, we have an author, we have a scientist, we have a doctor, we have an apostle, we have a preacher, we have a prophet. It's there. And it just, the children really taught me to really love on them. And I would see them and I would hug on them. And I knew that, in China, you're a number. because it's so many people there. And so I feel like from that point on of being with those children, it taught me how to just really see them as innocent. Like they didn't ask to be here. They didn't ask to be in this world. And like I mentioned before, China, it's a number. It's so many people there. So they're working 10 times harder than the world because they want to get into an Ivy League school. They want to come abroad. They want to provide for their families too. And so I think just being there, it was like one part of me wanted healing, and God was working on me simultaneously. In one area of my life, he was working on me with patience and imagination and forgiveness. And then on the other half, it was like I was still drinking. I was still fornicating. Yes, I was still just being mean and evil. It was like, but when I got to the classroom, that evil side of me couldn't be in there. I could not be mean to those kids, no matter if they had, anger issues, or no matter if they was having a bad day. It was like I would leave whatever I was going through at the door. And I don't mean my classroom door. I meant like the school door. It had to be left there. It couldn't come with me in the building. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't want them to feel like they couldn't trust me. Yeah. There was already a trust issue there because one, she doesn't look like my mom. She has big eyes. She has curly hair. Who is this girl? We don't speak the same language. How can I trust her? I'm here with her all day. Yeah. So I think one of the foundations and building that foundation was to make them feel I can trust her. She's not just my teacher, but I can trust this lady. And so when I started to have the kids trust me is when life started to get a little bit easier for me, because I felt like I was making an impact. It's like, oh my gosh, like I'm coming into this other country, just like how I did in Kuwait, and I'm actually learning a little bit about them. I'm hearing their language, and I'm taking that to apply it to see how we can meet a commonality. And the commonality is love, because you're a kid and you just want to be loved. You don't care about what I'm wearing. You don't care about what I look like. All you care about is if I can love you and if I can trust you. And if I have that, then I want to be around you all day. And so that made it easy for me to just let down those walls. And it brought me back to my childhood, to where I was like, I had a mean kindergarten teacher, and I remembered that. She was so mean. Like, she was just mean. And so I said to myself, I don't want these kids to say I had a mean kindergarten teacher. I want them to be like, no, I remember I had a Black African-American teacher who was so sweet to us and went above and beyond to make us feel loved. Because I think, once I said earlier, if you know that you have that cup of love, right? And these kids, they have it, right? Children naturally just want to love, naturally. It's not until somebody sowed seeds into them that bears the fruit later on in life, right? Think about it. If you meet somebody who is always angry, probably has a mental illness, probably always fighting, it's only because the seeds that were sown in them as a child has bear the fruit that they're living in now. So I figure if I'm going to sow seeds into you, I want the fruit to show when you get to elementary. I want the fruit to show when you get to middle school. And so I called my classroom the sunflower classroom, because the sunflower is my favorite flower, and it withstands all storms. It has the strongest, vine. It's a stem. It's the strongest stem, and it doesn't waver. And that's what I made them feel like that. I told them, you're my sunflowers, because even though you might not know how to speak English right now, keep standing. Let me pour into you. Keep practicing. And always know that you stand tall. Sunflowers are tall. They're not small. They're tall. You stand above the other flowers in the field. Mm-hmm. And so it was just those moments that just really helped me love and be patient and have a soft spot for children and for people who are hurting. A lot of people in this world don't know what love is because they never received it. So they don't know how to give it. They don't know how to reciprocate that back. So it's all about guarding your heart, but it's also about asking God, where can I meet this person at? How can I have compassion for them? How can I love on them in a way that they're able to receive it, so that when they get it, they're not high off of it to where they don't know how to give it back. Imagine giving a drug addict $1 million and telling them to go buy a house and clothes and all of these things. He's not gonna do that because he's never had he never had that education on it. He's only been getting high his whole life, and so now he got to he got a final break to get his fix fixed, right? But if you give him piece by piece and walk him through it, then he's able to manage it. Then he's able to see. But it's all about having an eye for it.
True.
Right? Yeah. The children taught me how to have an eye for love, have an eye for patience, have an eye for imagination.
Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward when COVID strike.
Ooh. So when COVID hit,
you were still in China.
I was still in China.
Teaching.
No, school had got shut down.
Okay.
School had got shut down, and when school got shut down, my mom set it up for me to come back to the States. Mm-hmm. I went to Houston, Texas for a month, and in that month, I thought I had fallen in love with an old college mate, and I was like, I'm not going back to China. I'm getting married to this guy. But found out homeboy had a kid, and I was like, what's going on? So my best friends were like, yo, what are you doing? Like, when are you coming back to China? And I'm like, girl, I have a stronghold on me. I'm not coming back. I didn't mess somebody. What you mean? And she was like, no, like, you need to come back. And so there goes that person exhorting me and letting me know, hey, that's not who God has for you. That's not your life. Like, and you think it's the person talking to you, but it's really God speaking through that person to give you common sense. Like, hello, ding dong, that's not what I wrote for you. Get back to China. So I got back to China, and I was going back to get my stuff. I ended up staying.
And all that was during COVID?
All of it was during COVID. So
First year or second?
First year. So I got back, and within 5 days, they closed the borders.
Oh.
When they closed the borders, also during those 5 days, they made you quarantine at a hotel. But I got blessed to quarantine at my house. And they had a camera on the door.
Oh, wow.
And if you open up your door for too long, they would come up in the little suits and be like, hey, what's wrong? Why is your door? Like, they were very strict. So we were on lockdown. We were on lockdown for a long time. On and off, on and off, on and off. But by the grace of God, I still was making money. I was doing voice acting. I was doing camps. So I would work at these different side camps and do science and drama. I even started teaching the Chinese kids Arabic because I still have my books. Anyways, so I started to teach them, from that. And I was making great money doing that. Like, I was making a lot of money doing that. And you good? Okay. I was making a lot of money doing that. And so once COVID was going on, I just started to roll with the punches. But I think in that time, towards like the end, is where I started to increase my faith. Because I started to see my friends were either drinking a lot, depressed, some were even trying new drugs. Wow. And I was like, man, this is really scary. Like, you need to have some sort of faith to get through this judgment. Because, I think my faith is what really, it cranked it up a notch. And it wasn't until this guy, he told me, he wanted to be my boyfriend. And I was like, I would never date you. Like, I just told him like that, plain as day. And it wasn't until he said, you are such a heartbreaker and you are so hurt and you're beautiful, but the minute you open your mouth, it comes hurt. No one's going to be with you because you're hurt like that. And I tell you, it was like, no one had ever called me that before. No one had ever told me that before. And I just went to my room and cried. I just cried. I needed to hear it. I just cried. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such a bad person. And because my dad hurt my mom, I wanted to hurt every man. And it was like a wake up call when he did that. And so I started to pull away. I still had lust in me. I was struggling with a lot of things, and so I felt like this is just bringing me downhill. Like, I would cry and I would ask God, like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I living like this? Like, who am I? Who am I? My grandmother always told me that you had a purpose for me. So what is my purpose? Where are you now? Why can't I hear you? Why don't I have a relationship with you? If I'm so anointed, if I'm so special, if I'm such a light, why can't I hear you? Where are you? Right? And I would have different people come in and out, and I had met a community of believers that would host church in their house. And I was like, this is so lame. Like, this is so lame, because I was used to the black church. And God will love you. And they were more so waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God. And I'm just like, this is lame. Like, I don't want to be a believer if this is what I'm going to be doing, right? And it wasn't until I met this Russian lady, Nastia. And Nastia absolutely loved me, and she would open up her home and cook for everybody, and nobody had a judgment, and everybody in there was from different cultures. You had some from Tanzania, some from Zimbabwe, some from Nigeria, me from America, her from Russia, some Chinese people, all praying together. And it made me like, what is this? What is this? Well, I've never experienced anything like this before. I never had my own relationship with God. I only just listened to my family members and said, oh yeah, I believe. I know Jesus. I believe. But I never had a personal relationship with him, right? And I remember she invited me to lunch, and she said, you need to repent and stop fornicating, and you need to get your life together. And I was like, so you want the chicken pasta or you want the cheeseburger? Because I'm trying to decide which one I want. And she says, God has a plan for you. And I was like, do you like the smoothie or do you want a Sprite? I don't want to hear that. Like, I don't want to hear what you convict me. Like, who are you to convict me in my sin? You aren't my God, right? And I just was like, I ignored her. But I know that seed had been planted on grounds. It had been planted. And I started to be a little different. Like, I noticed that my mind started to change, and I started to ask. And in the Bible, Matthew 7, chapter 7, verse 7 says, seek and you'll find. Knock and the doors will open. Call and I'll answer, right? So I had already been putting that verse into play without realizing it. And I remember that I had a falling out with one of my friends, and she pretty much she told me her dad passed away. And so I was struggling with if I should text her or not. Should I send my condolences or not? But there goes that unforgiveness. You just said that the kids helped you to forgive. So why are you battling with that? Did you really learn how to forgive? Or you just acting like you forgave? Is what I heard in my head. Not realizing that was God speaking to me. So I'm like, no, I didn't really forgive her. Okay, well, you need to forgive her and you need to text her. So I texted her. I said, hey, look, my condolences to you and your to you and your family. If you ever want to talk about it, let me know. And so she says, okay. And we start talking, and we meet up at this like river. I had been going to this river. I started cycling a lot. And I found this river, and I would just be sitting at this river for hours, not understanding why. Why am I here, right? She says, I'm a part of this ministry of this man of God, and he's a prophet, and I want you to talk to him. And I said, girl, I don't need nobody telling me nothing about who I am. And she says, no, you should talk to him. And I said, no, I'm good. And she was like, okay, I'm going to give you the number. Pray about it. And if God allows you to do it, then do it. And so I said, okay. And I was hesitant because I had been struggling with money. Like, I had just told my best friend in China that I don't know where my money is going. Like, I will get paid, but then I will lose this money. Like, where is my money going? And so I had texted the guy, and I was like, hey, look, because my friend said, just text your first name and last name. That's it.
This was all still back in China.
Back in China. Now, this man is in Mississippi, okay, in the States. I texted him, and I said, hey, my name is Breana Williams. My friend told me to text you. I don't know why I'm texting you. And y'all, he just starts to go in, and he's giving me a word about how there is something spiritual following me in regard to my money. Now, I almost dropped my phone because I didn't tell anybody that except for my best friend. So now I'm interested. Now I want to know, how do you know that? What are you praying to? Who's talking to you and telling you this about me, right? Because we all have spiritual gifts, but it's the way we use them. Psychics are actually prophets and prophetess, but they use it for the dark kingdom. We have gifts. Everybody has a spiritual gift. We just don't know what it is. We haven't tapped into it yet because we haven't asked. Well, anyways, I start to follow his ministry, and he tells me that you need to get baptized. You need to give your life back to Christ. You have a calling on your life, and you need to, like, God wants to use you. So I'm like, I don't really know if I want to give up that life. I still want to drink. I still want to go club. I still want to talk to men. I don't know if I want to give that up yet. So I finally make the decision in my heart, like, okay, I'm going to change my life. Like, I want to change my life. And I remember being in my room, and it was at 2:45 in the morning, and I hear my name being called, Breana. So I'm like, what is that? Like, why do I hear my name being called, right? And I go to sleep. I wake up, but I don't feel scared. I feel at ease. I feel peace. I go back to sleep. The next day, I'm now thinking about it. So I text the man of God. I said, hey, I keep hearing my name being called. He said, the next time you hear it, say, here I am, Lord, speak to me. I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I don't know what you thought this was, but I'm not doing that. And he goes, no, don't be afraid. Do it. And I said, I'm not doing that. And he said, no, seriously, do it. So second night, I hear my name again, same hour. And I wake up, I look around, and go back to sleep. And I don't do it. The third night, I hear it again, and I say, here, Lord, here I am, Lord, speak to me. And everything just changed. Like, everything just shifted. Like, I can't explain it. I can't explain the encounter that I had. I cannot explain the encounter that I had. But all I know is that I stopped wanting to go to the clubs. I stopped wanting to drink. I haven't drunk now in like 2 years and a half. I don't smoke hookah. I stopped all of it because I gave my life to Christ. And then I finally said, I'm going to get baptized. So before I left China, I got baptized. And I meet so many people, and I think a lot of people are doing it wrong. You get baptized and you accept Christ into your heart, and then you look at someone who doesn't know Christ and you shun them out and you judge them. But that's not how you're supposed to do it.
No, definitely not. You're
not supposed to do that. That's not the gospel at all. He says to preach the gospel. He says to love your neighbor like you love yourself. Mm-hmm. He says to go out and make disciples. That's what he said. And so I think that my walk has just been it's been the best thing that I've ever done. Like, telling God, yes, I surrender everything to you. My will is no longer my will. Let your will be done. Mm-hmm. My life is no longer your life. The things that I want to say, the anger or anything that I feel, I can't do that. Instead, I'll be quiet and I'll let you fight my battles, because that's what you promised me, right? And so I realized that if you have the time, go read in the Bible, 1 Samuel. See what happened to him. The same thing that happened with him happened with me, with being called at night. And I'm like, what? Like, I never believed it. My grandmother always used to talk to me about it, and I never believed it. But now you can't tell me anything different. So I got back to the States after China. And as I got back to the States, I started to really dig deeper into my family. What curses are on my bloodline? I'm Creole, right? It's a lot of witchcraft on my bloodline, molestation, rape, alcoholism, divorce, adultery, lust. These are all curses. These are all spirits that are on my bloodline, right? If you go to the book of Isaiah, it talks about breaking these generational curses. You can break these curses. You have dominion and authority to do it, right? You just have to believe it. You have to accept Jesus in your heart, and you have to believe it. And then you can break these things. So the whole year and a half, I was figuring out, okay, what happened to grandma, mom? What did she do here? So now I'm finding this information, and I'm going to God, and I'm asking the Lord, tell me, you said you're real. In the Bible, it says you're real. It says that if I call on your name, you'll answer me. So I just put that to work, and I started to figure it out. So then he gave me the business, Plant God's Seed, which is a luxury perfume line. Okay. And it's called Plant God's Seed. At first it was called Plant the Seed, but it's called Plant God's Seed because it took one person to plant a seed in your garden of faith for you to even come to terms to know who God is or even have a belief in what God is, right? So he gave me this idea, and the brand is called Mythic Aroma. Mythic stands for sweet aroma. It's from the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 3, which means to let me always smell of a sweet fragrance in the presence of God. So I always want to, when I worship, I want to smell sweet. When I speak to people, I want to smell of your aroma. I don't want anything that doesn't look like you or smell like you to be on me. So I went through a 3-day deliverance, okay? I was on the phone. I had just come out of church, and something had happened that I'm not released to talk about just yet. But I wanted prayer for it. So I asked my friend, her dad, he's an apostle from Nigeria, Apostle Masha. I asked him for prayer. And as he was praying for me, he told me to lock my doors and to hold my Bible to my belly, because the Bible is the living word of God. It is a two-edged sword that pierces through the bone marrow and the spirit. Okay? So I held this to my stomach. Now, remember, I told you guys in China, I had been drinking. I had been fornicating. When you have sex, if any type, even if you are anything that's not in a marriage, you're now making soul ties, right? And so I sat in that car, and he started praying for me. And as he was praying for me, somebody knocks on my door, one of my friends, to try to open up the door, and I told them no. Now, for him to tell me to lock the door means that God had given him a vision that there could be a distraction.
Yeah, someone will try to do that.
Y'all, I'm sitting down, and he's praying for me, and then out of nowhere, a spirit starts to scream while he's praying. And he says, who am I speaking to? Who is this? Right? Over the phone. We're not face to face. This is over the phone. And that spirit says his name. And so he casts that demon out. In the Bible, Jesus came to cast out demons, right? He gives us the authority to do so. After that, he says, you need to go through a deliverance. So I'm scared now, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been praying. I gave my life, and I have demons in me. What do you mean? So I'm at the house, and it's the second day. I told you it's 3 days. Second day, we go through all of these, the whole thing. Like, he brings me through it in the spirit, because we should focus more on the spiritual realm, not the natural, right? When you're arguing with someone, you're not arguing with the flesh. You're arguing with the spirit. So he's bringing me through this, and the second day is fine. Now, the day before, the last day, I can't sleep. It's like a movie. I feel these things in my body. I feel it in my stomach. I feel it in my back, and I'm praying in my mind. And I'm like, Lord, don't you let anything come up while I'm in this house, because I don't know what this is. I've never went through this before. So the last day, we go through the deliverance, and it took 7 hours. 7 hours of us getting this out of me. Like, skin had acne, like literally just really praying over me and getting these things out of me. And I can finally say that, one, I'm healed. I forgave my dad. I forgive his new wife. I forgive every person that ever hurt me. Because in the Bible, it says when you don't forgive, God doesn't forgive you. And that it is impossible to please God without faith. And so now I can firmly look at both of you and say that I'm healed. I'm happy. And I'm happy that God took me through that journey to learn how to love again, to learn how to spread his word, and to do it with love, to do it with sincerity and compassion. And if people don't get it, that's okay. Keep it moving. You don't have to, it doesn't need to be forced. I don't need to argue with you about what I believe.
You're never going to be everyone's cup of tea. Just
exactly.
As not everyone is your cup of tea.
Exactly. Yeah. So I learned a lot in this life, and I'm excited to see what Kuwait has. I'm excited to see adult Bree in Kuwait. One that's a lot more calm, a lot more loving, and still silly. And so, yeah, that's my story, I think. I think that's everything, yeah.
Let's end it with, now, what brought you back to Kuwait?
What brought me back to Kuwait? So I had went back home, and I had asked the Lord, like, I want to go back overseas. I don't know where I want to go. I actually wanted to go to Japan. So I want to go to Japan. And when I was praying, the Lord confirmed and said, you will go back overseas. You'll go in August. But he hadn't told me where. And then I had came in May to get some ouds and like see how I wanted to do my luxury line. And I was like, man, I got to be back here. And I hung out with friends from school. Yeah. And they were all like, you should think about...
had a trip to Mbarkiya.
Yeah, like you should come back to Kuwait, Bree. Like you know, you learned the language. Like you would be awesome here. Yeah. And I was like,
and she has friends and family who like love and support her. And I think this is something that you were actually shocked about.
I was so shocked, because when I came back, so many of the girls from high school had surprised me at the coffee shop. And like, to them that's simple, but to me I'm like, yo, you have lunch. You know, Kuwaitis eat lunch with their family. Like that is a traditional thing. Like you told your parents, push the lunch date back just so we can meet with Bree. Even if it's for an hour. Time. Setting aside time for me, you know? It's just, it was beautiful. And so I prayed about it, and I was like, I really think I need to go back there. And it's a full circle moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's definitely a full circle moment. I mean, I asked you like a million times, like, how do you feel being back when you came back in May, and her going through the oud and everything. And I mean, like, we took a journey down Barki.
And I remember we wanted to have her in May, but unfortunately at that time I traveled.
It
wasn't the right time. Mm-hmm. But like listening to your story, it's so crazy how like everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
Every turn, every misturn, like even when you said like, oh, like by mistake I took Uber Pool and he just went to pick up, like, who would have thought, you know? Like, it just shows, like, everything happens for a reason. Everyone comes into your life for a reason, to give you either to teach you a lesson or a blessing, you know?
Yeah. And some people are in your life, and they're not meant to be, not meant exactly long term. They can come for a chapter, for a page.
A reason and a season.
And that's it.
So it's crazy, you know? Like, wow.
I mean, it's been such a humbling experience just hearing it. I thank you.
Thank you
for being here, for honoring us and blessing our podcast, honestly.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story. Like, I want to listen more. Like, I'm just there. This whole episode, I'm just like listening. I'm like, wow.
And we can relate on so many different levels.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own journey in life.
That's true.
And Bree, you had your own, but like, we definitely can pinpoint some similarities.
Yeah, in different ways. Like, even if it's like a different story, but like there's similar lessons or similar enlightenments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we laughed. I got goosebumps. I mean, like...
it was like a mixture of emotions, from laughing to goosebumps to being serious to emotional to deep, you know?
Wow.
I don't know.
To dropping gems, as usual. Per usual.
Dropping wisdom.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give you guys this gift. That's why they have like the diamond gems in it, because the symbol has, you know, a diamond, and on the top of the diamond is a crown, and in the middle is a cross. And it's when you allow God to really be used, everything is clear. There's clarity. So I just wanted to read the back of the box for you.
For sure.
I wrote it it's on all the boxes, but it says, embrace the Embrace the essence of divine confidence, courage, and love, knowing that you are the salt of this world. My hopes are for every roll of this perfume, you'd be encouraged to plant God's seed. Let its captivating scent empower you to walk with grace and compassion. Love you, King and Queen.
Oh, wow.
Love
That's
that.
so beautiful.
There you go.
Love that.
Thank you so
You're welcome.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think you have Sacred Lily and Remnant.
Okay.
So
Thank
your
you,
homework for tonight and anybody else that's watching is to really dig deep and find out people that maybe you don't have forgiveness to, and look at that and write a letter to them. Write a letter to them on why. I learned this from this man of God called Craig, and he had a book about this. But write a letter to these people of really just embracing the journey that you're going through now, but also forgiving them for what they did. And let it go. Let it go. Like, don't hold on to what people are doing, because it's only going to hinder you in your life. It's only going to stop you from progressing. So find it in your hearts to forgive. And
I can totally relate on something that I'm going through right now in my life, but like,
pray on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just don't keep that there. It's you have so many things that's coming for you in this chapter. Both of you do.
For sure.
And you don't want the enemy to hinder you from what God has for you.
I truly believe like surrendering to the universe, to God, is the best thing to do, because sometimes you spend so much energy and time trying to control things you can't control. Just let go. You never know. Khalas. Just let it go. It is what it is, and
just do it.
just do it,
Yeah.
and
Just
take
do
any
it.
opportunity coming your way. And
Yeah.
with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this amazing story, inspired you in some way, would have been relatable or anything in any type of way. Don't forget to always forgive, love. It's all about love and good vibes,
Always.
as always. Don't forget to follow us on all platforms, per usual, the whole shebang. Episodes every Wednesday. And with that being said, big love. Peace.